Okay, ready to dive deep. Today we're unlocking the secrets of persuasion, how we get others to say yes. We're taking excerpts from Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, by Robert Cialdini.
It's like that moment when you think, wait, why did I agree to that? Cialdini, he spent years, studying what makes people comply. Salespeople, marketers, even con artists. And get this, these tactics, they work even when we think we're immune.
Oh, tell me about it. Like that time I bought that overpriced bread maker. I swore I'd use it every day. Spoiler alert. I did not.
Exactly. Cialdini argues that our brains, well, they rely on these mental shortcuts to make decisions, especially when we're busy. He calls them click-whir responses.
So instead of carefully weighing the pros and cons, we're on autopilot.
Pretty much. And usually these shortcuts, they're helpful, but they can also make us vulnerable to manipulation.
Okay, so kind of like how a mother turkey's instincts tell her to care for anything that makes a cheep, cheep sound, even if it's like a stuffed animal. Cialdini talks about that, right?
Yeah, perfect analogy. We humans, we have our own versions of those fixed action patterns, and compliance professionals, well, they know exactly how to trigger them.
Okay, this is getting a little creepy. So how do they do it? How do they hack our brains like that?
Well, Cialdini, he breaks down persuasion into 6 key principles: reciprocity, commitment and consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity. And these principles, they're everywhere, from advertising to, even personal relationships.
6 principles. Okay, that feels manageable. Let's start with reciprocity. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, right?
Seems simple, but it's powerful. Cialdini highlights this with a study where a professor sent Christmas cards to complete strangers.
Wait, what? Did they send him angry letters back? Who does that?
Nope, they sent cards back. A flood of holiday greetings from people who barely knew him. It just proves that receiving a gift, even if you didn't ask for it, can create a sense of obligation to return the favor.
Wow, that's wild. It's not even about the gift itself. It's that feeling of, I owe you one.
You got it. Remember those Hare Krishna Society folks? They used to give out flowers at airports.
Oh, yeah, and then ask for a donation. I totally fell for that once.
Classic reciprocity in action. They found that people, even if they didn't want the flower, felt obligated to give something back.
Wow. Okay, that's some Jedi mind trick stuff.
Yeah.
But seriously, how far can this go? Is it really that powerful?
Oh, it can be incredibly powerful. Cialdini, he tells this story about a German soldier during World War I. The soldier, he spared an enemy soldier's life after being offered a piece of bread.
No way. Just for a piece of bread.
It's amazing, right? That simple act, it created a sense of indebtedness that transcended the battlefield. Powerful stuff.
Wow. Definitely food for thought, literally. Okay, so that's reciprocity. What about commitment and consistency?
Ah, yes. Have you ever noticed, once you take a stand, voice an opinion, you're more likely to act in ways that are consistent with that stance, even if, maybe you were wrong.
Oh, all the time. Like that time I decided to give up sugar, then I found myself like justifying a donut because it was artisanally made. My brain is ridiculous.
We crave that consistency, even if it means twisting ourselves into pretzels. And you know who else knows this? Toy companies.
Toys. Okay, now you have my attention. Tell me more.
Think about those must-have toys advertised before Christmas. You know the ones. Well, Cialdini, he explains that some companies, they deliberately undersupply stores.
So parents promise these toys to their kids, the stores are sold out, and then what?
Parents end up buying substitute gifts, promising to get the real thing later.
Right.
It's a clever, albeit, well, slightly manipulative sales tactic.
And then after Christmas?
The ads for those same toys, they reappear, reminding those kids and their parents of that promise. And the parents, wanting to be consistent, well, they often cave and buy the toy, even if the frenzy has passed.
It's like they're playing the long game with our brains.
Exactly. And you know what's even wilder? Cialdini found an example of this, like in a prisoner of war camp during the Korean War.
Wait, seriously. POW camps. Not exactly the place that springs to mind when I think of marketing.
Right. But it turns out those Chinese communists, they were surprisingly good at getting American POWs to cooperate.
Okay, now I have to know more. How?
It wasn't through force, really, more like subtle tactics. Often using this commitment and consistency principle, they'd start small. Ask prisoners to write something down, like America isn't perfect, or sign a petition.
Oh, wow. I can see how that would seem harmless enough, especially in that situation.
Exactly. But then, here's the thing. The Chinese, they'd publicize these statements, put them up on bulletin boards, read them on the loudspeaker.
Oh, wow. So those small commitments became public declarations. And to avoid looking inconsistent, those soldiers might start to actually believe what they were forced to say.
Right. It's like once they'd publicly aligned themselves, even in a small way, they were more open to like further requests, actions that aligned with their, new stance.
It's like give them an inch and they'll take a mile.
Exactly. But here's the interesting part. Cialdini says we can actually use this to our advantage. Want to stick to a goal? Make it public.
So if I want to finally write that novel, I should announce it on social media.
Yeah. By making that public commitment, you're more likely to follow through, because now you've got that inner drive to be consistent.
Okay, noted. Public declarations for the win. Now let's talk about, social proof. This one, I feel like everyone's experienced this. It's that whole, if everyone else is doing it, it must be okay, right?
Yeah. You're not sure what to do, so you just kind of look around and follow the crowd. Totally natural.
Right. Like, they can't all be wrong, can they?
Exactly. Makes sense, from an evolutionary standpoint. Following the crowd, that often meant survival. But these days, well, it can be misleading. Think about those commercials that boast about being the best-selling this or that.
Or those charity drives that constantly show all the names of people who've donated.
Right. They're not really giving you evidence, are they? Just using social proof. Tapping into that desire to fit in.
And it can have some really serious consequences. Like, remember that story about Kitty Genovese, the woman who was murdered while, a bunch of neighbors watched?
Yeah, that's a chilling example of social proof gone wrong. The bystander effect, it's called. Everyone assumed someone else would help.
It's almost like the more people there are, the less responsible each person feels.
It's like responsibility gets diluted or something, right?
Yeah.
But if you ever need help, Cialdini says, you can't rely on that. Be specific. Single someone out. Like, hey, you in the red shirt, call 911.
Such good advice. Okay, so social proof can be, clearly a powerful force. But what about who we like and trust? Does that play a role in persuasion?
Huge role. We're naturally drawn to people who are similar to us. Our brains, they just love that stuff. And advertisers, they're all over this. Think about those commercials with the regular people giving testimonials.
Right, like, hey, if this random person loves it, I probably will too.
Exactly. And it gets even, a little creepy maybe. Some companies, they train salespeople to, mirror their clients.
Wait, seriously? Mirror how?
Their body language, their communication style. It's supposed to create an instant connection.
Oh, wow. That's both fascinating and a little unsettling. Like, how much of a connection is too much? But okay, back to liking. It's more than just shared interests, isn't it? It's also about shared mannerisms.
Yeah. It's like we're hardwired to connect with those who are like us.
Okay, hold on. We have to talk about compliments. Everyone loves a good compliment, even if we know it's maybe not, totally sincere.
Oh, absolutely. Cialdini says compliments are super powerful. They build rapport. And it doesn't even have to be about our, achievements or anything. Even just, I love your energy or you have a great laugh. That can go a long way.
So a little flattery never hurt anyone. Okay, so we've covered liking, social proof, and whoa, this is fascinating stuff. What other psychological levers are being pulled out there to influence our decisions? All right, we talked about reciprocity, commitment and consistency, social proof, liking. Wow, it's amazing how much these things influence us. But we still have two more of Cialdini's principles to go. Authority and scarcity. Let's talk authority first. It's like we're kind of hardwired to trust authority figures, right? Teachers, doctors, that sort of thing.
It's true. We learn it from a young age. And usually, it makes our lives easier. But it can also make us vulnerable to influence. Even when, maybe it's not in our best interest. Cialdini, he talks about the Milgram experiments. Remember those?
Oh, yeah, the ones with the electric shocks. Super unsettling how many people were willing to, keep going just because someone in a lab coat told them to.
Right. It's a powerful demonstration of how much we defer to authority. These weren't, bad people, but put them in the right situation with a strong authority figure.
It makes you wonder, do we just, switch off our brains when someone we see as an authority tells us to do something?
Kinda. Cialdini calls it the click whir response to authority. We're so used to obeying, we don't always stop to question.
It's not even always about actual authority, is it? It's the symbols of authority, too. Titles, uniforms, those sorts of things.
Absolutely. Ever notice how, every other TV ad has someone in a white coat trying to sell you something?
It's like our brains just go, lab coat equals expert, must be true. No wonder those con artists love a good uniform.
Exactly. They know what they're doing. But Cialdini, He doesn't want us to be cynical of everyone in a position of authority. It's about being discerning.
So how do we do that? How do we make sure we're not being, like, totally blindly led?
He recommends asking 2 questions when confronted with an authority figure. 1, is this authority truly an expert? Do they actually have the knowledge?
Right. Just because you're on TV doesn't make you an expert on, well, anything, really. And what's the second question?
The second question is, how truthful can I expect this expert to be? Do they have an agenda? Are they trying to sell me something?
Ah, okay. 2 simple questions, but they can make a big difference. All right, on to the last principle, scarcity. And this one, I'll be honest, gets me every time. Limited edition. Only 2 left in stock. I'm there.
You and me both. There's something about scarcity, right? But it makes sense. Cialdini says opportunities, they seem more valuable to us when they're limited.
It's like that saying, you always want what you can't have.
Exactly. And there are a couple of reasons for that. First, we equate scarcity with value. If something's rare, our brains go, ooh, that must be good.
It's like that heuristic, right? The mental shortcut. Like, if a bottle of wine is super expensive and hard to find, it must be amazing.
Exactly. And second, scarcity creates urgency. The fear of missing out, FOMO, it's real.
So that's why those limited time offers work so well. It's all about that ticking clock.
Exactly. And it's not just products either. Information can be scarce too. Think about censored books or banned movies. The fact that you're not supposed to see it makes you want to see it even more.
It's like the forbidden fruit. We can't resist.
Exactly. And marketers know that. Those tactics, they're designed to trigger our scarcity response.
So how do we resist? How do we not fall for it every time?
Cialdini says, take a beat. When you feel that urge, that I gotta have it now feeling, stop. Ask yourself, do I really want this?
Is it the product itself I want, or just like the thrill of the chase?
Exactly. Once you identify that scarcity pressure, you can take a step back and make a more rational decision.
Okay, wow. This has been an incredible deep dive. 6 principles of persuasion: reciprocity, commitment, and consistency, social proof, liking, authority, and scarcity. I feel like I need to go back and listen to this again. There's so much to unpack.
It's a lot to take in. But the good news is, now that you're aware of these principles, you can start to notice them in your own life and maybe make some different choices.